Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So in today's video we're going to talk about disruptive behavior. Now why should we talk about disruptive behavior? Well, obviously we're not able to teach anything if we have to deal with behaviors. So let's take a moment first to think about what we do for other things that children may be struggling with. When a child is struggling to read, what do? We teach them how to read, or we correct their reading behavior, right? When a child is struggling with math, what do? We teach them what they're doing wrong and we help them with math. When a child is struggling to make friends, what do? We tell them how to approach someone and how to say, hello, my name is, what's your name? We teach them what to do. When a child has inappropriate behavior, what do we often do? Punish. Why don't we teach? Why don't we correct the behavior? Why is the first thing that we do is punish rather than teach or correct, just like we do with reading, math, social skills, etc. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how we can correct the behaviors before we jump straight to punishment. I'm Dr. Cara, I'm an educator, and I'm here to educator to you. See what I did there? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. During this video, we will have some objectives. We're going to go over some reasons for behavior. Then we're going to look at strategies, which I'm sure you're all looking forward to. And finally, we will have a review to make sure you remember the things that you saw in this video. So what are some of the objectives for today's video? Well, our first objective will be that you're able to list 4 reasons for inappropriate behaviors. Next, we're going to make sure that you can describe the underlying reasons for inappropriate behaviors. And finally, we're going to look at being able to describe or apply strategies to correct your inappropriate behaviors. We finished objectives, so now we're going to go to the reasons for inappropriate behaviors. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons for inappropriate or disruptive behavior. The first reason is seeking attention. So some examples for seeking attention would be out of seat behaviors, blurting out instead of raising their hand to speak, making noises. Children do this at home and they also do this at school, where they're just constantly making random noises, but it's because they're looking for attention. There's also bullying or teasing peers, excessive hand raising, where their hand is up and it's just kind of like me, 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 instead of just letting others take a turn in answering the questions. And there's also talking at inappropriate times. Now, I'm sure you can think of some other attention-seeking behaviors that you've seen, and if you think of those, go ahead and leave a comment down in the box. So now let's look at why do children show these seeking attention behaviors? Well, the main reason is for a constant affirmation of worth. So just think about how the child is always wanting attention from you. And this is because they want to constantly be reaffirmed that they are valuable. They want to know that they have your love or they have your attention. They want to know that they're worth being responded to. So this is important to keep in mind when we're talking about children who are seeking your attention. It's because they're seeking your love and your caring. They want to know that they're worth something. Now let's move on to the second reason for disruptive behaviors. And the second reason for disruptive behavior is taking revenge. So what are some examples of revengeful behaviors? That would be getting even for injustices. Maybe they're destroying property. They might insult others publicly. Maybe they withdraw from the classroom or from their friends or from those around that have done an injustice to them. And there could also be physical attacks, such as fighting. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that sometimes these acts of revenge don't happen right away. So it could be that early in the morning, someone said, your backpack is ugly to a child. And then later in the day, the child who was told their backpack is ugly decides to hit that other child in the face. Now it looks like the child who hit the other child is the one who was in the wrong. And yes, they were in the wrong, but the motive was because earlier in the day, they were told that they have an ugly backpack. So they were taking revenge and making it even, that I'm getting you back for what you said to me. The same thing happens with children at home, especially if you have more than one child. You have an older sibling and a younger sibling, and often the younger sibling takes a lot of revenge on the older sibling for different things that have happened throughout the day. It's just important to know that they're taking revenge on what transpired between the other person and themselves. So now let's ask why. It's important to know why they're taking revenge. The reason they take revenge is because hurt people hurt people. When your feelings are hurt, well, when a child or a person's feelings are hurt enough to the point where they want to act out and take revenge, this is the motive of their behavior. If they were hurt before, they want to hurt that person as well. And sometimes they're just getting even, like the example I said with the backpack. Now, looking at the example with the backpack, they were hurt that the person said they have an ugly backpack. Maybe that was their favorite backpack. Maybe someone special bought them that backpack. It could be it's the only backpack they've had since kindergarten and now they're in 5th grade. Maybe their family can afford another backpack. Whatever the reason, they were hurt to the point where they wanted to cause physical harm to the person who hurt them. So it's important to know that hurt people hurt people. So let's move on to the fourth. Is it the fourth? Third, I was jumping ahead. The third reason for behaviors are displaying power. So when someone is trying to display power, they may argue constantly. I know you see children throw tantrums, but adults can throw tantrums too. There's also lying or disobeying and the constant saying no. Now you see these behaviors in a variety of age ranges. It's not just in children. So now let's look at why. Why do they feel like they need to display power? Well, the reason they feel that way is they want to have some form of control. Now, all of us as human beings like to have some sort of control. So it's important to know that when young children, such as a 2-year-old or even an adult, is doing an inappropriate behavior that is about displaying power, it's because they need some form of control in that particular situation. Go back to the slides. Okay, now we're on the fourth reason for inappropriate behaviors. So the fourth reason is they're displaying feelings of inadequacy or that they're not good enough. So what do those behaviors look like? Some examples would be giving up, avoiding participation altogether, so they're not even going to try, refusing to complete a task, or again, withdrawing from certain activities or assignments or different social interactions. They just completely don't want to be involved with that. So let's look at why would someone show feelings of inadequacy? And the reason is because they feel like they're not good enough. Maybe they feel like they're not good enough to go out for that football team, or they're not good enough to go dancing with their friends because they don't dance well enough, or they're not good enough to read out loud when the teacher calls on them because they don't read well or they don't know how to read. These are all important things to know. It's also important to note that this fourth reason for inappropriate behaviors, feelings of inadequacy, notice the examples a lot of times are not necessarily disruptive. If a child is withdrawing from the class or withdrawing from an activity, they're not seeking attention, they're not fighting with someone or causing an outburst in the class that brings the teacher's attention to them to stop that behavior. It's important to know that we need to look for the inappropriate behaviors of inadequacy. We want to make sure that we look for the child who's a little too quiet. We want to look for the child who's not participating with their peers in class. Or as parents, we want to look to see if our children are interacting with others on the playground. This is kind of a silent inappropriate behavior. So we really want to make sure that we pay attention to this, as it can lead to other things later on. So we've gone through the 4 reasons for inappropriate behaviors. So now, let's see. Are you ready for a little quiz? It's not really a quiz. It's just a review. Let's see if you remember the 4 reasons for inappropriate behavior and the 4 underlying reasons for those behaviors. Let's see how you do. Okay. What do you remember? First, we will go with the 4 reasons. Oh, wait. I don't want you to see it. Okay, so try to think of the 4 reasons for inappropriate behavior. I'll give you a hint. The first one is seeking attention. So think to yourself, I kind of feel like Dora the Explorer right now, but the first one, seeking attention. Excellent job. Yes, you did awesome. Can you remember the second one? Yes, maybe. I'm not sure what you said, but it's possible. And the third one? Okay, maybe. And the fourth one? I'm sure you got at least 2 or 3 correct. Let's see how you did. So now I will show you the answer. So we have seeking attention was the first one, taking revenge, maybe you remembered that one, displaying power, and then the last one was displaying feelings of inadequacy. How did you do? Did you get all 4? Yes, I'm sure you did. Good job. Okay, let's go to, do you remember the 4 causes or the 4 underlying reasons for the 4 reasons above? I don't want to show you the answer yet. Number 1, do you remember why they want attention? Maybe, okay. Do you remember why people seek revenge or they try to take revenge? Okay. Do you remember why people have inappropriate behaviors for displaying power? Maybe. And the last one was feelings of inadequacy. Why do they show behaviors for feelings of inadequacy? Okay, let's see who did. So when it comes to seeking attention, it's because they want to prove their self-worth. Remember, they want to know that others love them and they need confirmation or affirmation that they are worthy of attention. Next, we have revenge is because hurt people, remember, or they want to just get even. For power, it's because they want to feel like they have some sort of control in that situation. And the last one was for inadequacy, is because they feel like they're not good enough. How did you do? I'm sure you got all 4 again. Give yourself a round of applause or a pat on the back or a hug, whichever you feel you need for encouragement. Excellent job. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, strategies to help us correct inappropriate behaviors. So there are 2 types of strategies we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about proactive strategies and reactive strategies. Now, both of these types of strategies will help correct inappropriate behaviors, but you're going to see an important difference. So let's start with proactive strategies. Now, by proactive strategies, I'm talking about things we can do before a behavior even presents itself. So let's see what we can do to prevent inappropriate behaviors before they even start. Here's a few ideas. So first, we can create rules together. Now, when I was teaching high school, this was an amazing thing that the students really enjoyed at the beginning of the school year. Instead of having the classroom rules already created, each subject, well, it was math, but each period would create their own classroom rules. So as a class, we decided what the 3 to 5 rules would be. Those rules were positively stated. So instead of don't get out of your seat, it would say remain seated. Instead of saying don't, no, stop. We want to make sure that the rules are positively stated to, just harness the idea of positivity. So we also created the consequences together. So by creating rules and consequences together with students or with your own children, they feel like they were part of the process. So for those who want to feel like they have power or control, they're getting that need met by helping you create classroom rules, house rules, and the consequences that go with those rules. Then they also feel like the consequences are fair. Now, when you're making the behavior, the rules and the consequences, you can also have a behavior contract. I know I skipped establishing routines, but we'll get there. So by having the rules together and the consequences together, you can then create a contract where everyone who was involved with making those rules and consequences will sign that they agree to abide by these rules and consequences. Then when they're not abiding by those rules and consequences, you can refer back to that behavior contract and let them know your word is bond. You signed on this dotted line that you were going to do this. Now, this also teaches them things that are valuable for adult life. When you sign your name that you're going to pay for a car, they'll come get the car if you don't. So it's important for them to learn at a young age that signing your name on something is extremely important and your word does mean something. So when it comes to another proactive strategy, it would be establishing routines. Now in the classroom, if the students know the routine for going from group work back to a whole class setting, then the transition will be much smoother, as well as using the bathroom. If they need to use the bathroom and they know that the routine is to raise their hand and ask if they can use the restroom. Maybe the routine is they come up to the teacher's desk and they ask if they can use the pass. most teachers say to raise your hand, ask if you can use the bathroom, and then the process is to go and get the bathroom pass, and you take that with you when you go to the restroom, and then you come back. But like I'm saying, for routines, you want to make as many routines as possible so that students have less room to do inappropriate behaviors. If they know what the appropriate expectation is, they're more likely to follow it. Same at home. If you have a routine at home where children know after we have dinner, then we have bath time, and after bath time we have story time. Then they kind of know what to look forward to, and so they know that after dinner it's not playtime. So they won't go running around or asking to go outside because they already know that now it's time for bath time. So again, you're leaving less room for inappropriate behaviors to occur. Routines are extremely important. Now, we already talked about creating consequences together, so the next one is to have choices available. Children and adults love choices. As teachers and as parents, we're constantly saying, okay, now it's time to complete an assignment. Okay, now it's time to take out your books and we're going to read. But instead we could say, okay, you have a choice. Right now you can read the chapter that we learned about today, or you can talk with your friends about what we just talked about as a class. And then the child gets to choose which activity they'll do first. Now, right now, there's COVID-19 and there's a lot of home learning happening. So for parents, a strategy you could do is you have all of their work laid out for the day for math, science, reading, whatever the subjects are. Just ask your child, which subject would you like to complete first? So yes, they still need to complete all of their work, but at least they get a choice as to which assignment they'll do first. Now, in terms of parenting, you may offer choices about dinner or where they're going to go as a family. Like, are you going to the movies? Which movie are you going to see? Would they like to go to the movies or do they want to go to the park? So there's a lot of times throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the classes where you can offer choices, and having those choices already created is going to save a lot of headaches, and it's also going to help keep behaviors appropriate by allowing students or children to have choice. So we've talked about the proactive strategies. Let's move on to reactive strategies. Now, when talking about reactive strategies, we're talking about inappropriate behaviors that have already happened. So now we're reacting to the inappropriate behavior. So let's look at some strategies for how we should react to these behaviors in a more appropriate way. So as you remember from the beginning of the video, the different strategies are going to be about attention-seeking behaviors, revenge-taking behaviors, maybe power struggle behaviors, and of course, the behaviors that show that a child has feelings of inadequacy or that they're not worthy of doing something. So we're going to start with attention. Some strategies for attention, for those seeking attention, are to always show respect. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is if a child is sitting at a desk, beating on the desk with their fingers or with a pen, and it gets really annoying. It can be in a classroom, it can be at home, and you just want to say, hey, knock it off. Well, that's not really showing respect. So instead, we should take a moment, deep breath. Excuse me, do you mind not tapping on the desk because, I'm trying to work over here? Or you can say, you know what? I really like that beat you were making, but everyone's trying to work, so can we just keep it down and save the beat for a little bit after the assignment? That way, we're showing respect, and with that second example that I gave, we're also encouraging the child. So remember, children who are seeking attention, they need affirmation of worth. So they're trying to get your attention because they want to know that they're worthy of other people's attention and care and love. So if we're saying, hey, I really like that beat you were making, but can we do it a little bit later? I'll give you some time after the assignment, and then you can show all of us what you created. It might help the child feel like, oh, she paid attention to me, and she wants to see what else I can do. So they're getting that affirmation that they have self-worth and that you care about them. So another thing is we can model the correct behavior. Now, I have at this moment in time, I don't know what year you'll watch this video, but right now I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So I often have issues with attention seeking, especially from my 4-year-old because she's the middle child. So right now she's going through a phase of a lot of screaming, yelling, being loud, and not screaming for any reason, just walking through the house and literally screaming. Like she's really seeking attention. So instead of us saying, hey, Alia, knock it off, or be quiet, or go to your room, we try to model the correct behavior. So I might look at Alia and say, Alia, right now you're talking like this and we're inside the house and it's so loud. Let's try this. I want you to bring your voice down. Let's use our inside voice just for a little bit, okay? Because your little sister is sleeping and your big sister is trying to do her homework. You think you can have a low voice? Let me hear. And then I'll have her model the behavior to me. Now, I realize some of you are saying, "Phew, I am not gonna take the time to do all of that when I can just tell them to knock it off." Yes, this is true, but if you want to encourage appropriate behaviors for children who are seeking attention, you really want to mold a foundation of trust and a warm environment that they are cared for. So if you take the time to really correct the behavior in an appropriate manner, then you set up yourself and the child for success of appropriate behaviors in the future. So another thing is specific positive praise. And I'm a big supporter of specific positive praise. So once Alia brings her voice down, I could just ignore it and be like, oh, finally she's being quiet. Or I can make it a point to say, Alia, thank you so much for turning your voice down. You're being so amazing. I really appreciate that. So not only have we corrected the behavior, we've had her model the behavior. And we are encouraging future appropriate behavior by giving them specific positive praise. I mean specific because if I just said, good job, Alia, she might just say, good job for what? Like I'm just sitting here playing with my toys. So you have to make sure that you say, great job, Alia, turning your voice down and having a nice low inside voice. You want to be specific on the praise that you're giving. So now another thing is provide choice. So let's say I asked Alia to bring her voice down and she decides she doesn't want to listen. So she's still screaming and, being really loud while her little sister is sleeping and her big sister is doing homework. Another thing we can do at this point is, Alia, I would like you to turn your voice down. I've already asked you 1 or 2 times. So at this point, you can either turn your voice down or you can go to timeout. Which one would you like to do? Now, if they say, I'll go to timeout, let them go to timeout. They can go to timeout with whatever routine you've established for timeout. And if they choose to bring their voice down, say, oh, that's an excellent choice. And still remember to give that specific positive praise once you see that they're doing the appropriate behavior. Now, an interesting study showed that yelling at children or other adults or individuals is almost the same as hitting them. So I know a lot of people are no longer supporting spankings or corporal punishment, but just keep in mind that when we yell at children, it can have the same mental and emotional effects as actually hitting the child. So we really want to refrain from yelling out of anger or out of frustration. Now, having a stern voice is not the same as yelling. Children can actually tell when you're yelling out of frustration or anger, and they feel differently than when you're really stern, like, Alia, I told you to lower your voice. And they'll see that mommy face or that daddy face or the teacher face, and they know, ooh, I need to listen now. But, so again, strategies for attention-seeking behavior, you want to always show respect, speak kindly to people, encourage the behavior that you see can be encouraged, or maybe encourage what they're doing that you see has potential for something later, like if they're drumming on a desk, they had a great beat. If they're singing really loud, but they're not supposed to be singing right now, let them know they have a beautiful voice, but right now, let's focus on this. Or if they're talking out of turn in the class, thank you for wanting to participate, but I need you to raise your hand, okay? So we want to encourage whatever they're doing correctly, even if they're doing it correctly at the wrong time. Okay, so let's move on to revengeful behaviors. Okay, so if a child is engaging in inappropriate behaviors because of revenge, remember that they feel hurt. So they feel hurt and they want to get that person back. So again, always show respect. So instead of saying, why did you hit him? Like with a really angry voice, we want to just stop the behavior, because if it's a physical behavior, you want to stop the behavior as soon as possible. We want to hear them out. Can you tell me what's going on? What happened? Tell me what happened and how are you feeling right now? You really want them to express their emotions and what happened. We want to know what caused this revengeful behavior to want to happen. So you want to take the time to listen to the child. Then you want to model correct behavior. So, okay, so I saw Alia, because she's usually the one trying to get revenge on her big sister, Michaela. So let's say Michaela snatched the iPad and I didn't see that. All I saw was Alia go over to Michaela and hit her. And then I say, Alia, come here. Please tell me, why did you just hit your sister? And she'll say, because Michaela stole my iPad. And then I'll say, okay, Michaela, come here. Is it true? Did you take Alia's iPad without asking her? Yeah, because it was my turn to use the iPad. And so I just took it from her. So then we would have a conversation with Michaela and Alia about what they both did that was inappropriate and what they should have done instead. So Michaela, next time you should ask Alia if you can have a turn with the iPad. And if she says yes, she'll hand you the iPad. If she says no and it is your turn, come talk to mommy and I'll help you out. Alia, when someone takes something from you, what should we do? Okay, so should we hit? No, we should not hit. First, in our house, we have a routine of stop. I don't like that. And then if they're still not listening, you can go tell an adult. So we have this modeling of correct behavior. You can have them role play, go back through the scenario that happened so that they can see what they should have done correctly. And that leads us to practice. We want to make sure we have students practice the appropriate behaviors when they feel that they need to get revenge on someone or they feel that they've been hurt. They need to let that person know, hey, you know what? I didn't like what you just said. And of course, teenagers aren't going to say, you hurt my feelings. But they can say, hey, I didn't like what you just said. Why did you say that to me? And so they can get a conversation going rather than having physical revenge or any other type of inappropriate behaviors. And they can talk it out. They need to learn to talk it out. As adults, if we don't talk it out and we do other things instead, it can lead to us being arrested or other consequences that we don't want. So another important thing to remember is the way we teach children and young adults to interact with their emotions is going to lead into adulthood. So we want to start now. We want to take the time to really develop strong emotional reactions to the different stimulus or stimuli that cause them to act out in inappropriate ways. And again, like I said with attention-seeking behaviors, you want to provide specific positive praise. So if you see them reacting to something in a positive way, such as saying, hey, I didn't like that you did that, you can say, you know what? I appreciate that you told them I didn't like that, instead of just going up and smacking them in the head. We have to make sure that we give positive praise, that we need to reinforce what they're doing correctly. And then of course we can always provide choices. We can let them know, if you chose to go and hit that person, this is what's going to happen. If you chose to talk it out, this is what could happen. Which one are you going to choose next time? So of course, the time that it happens and they've been in a fight, it's already happened. So you're not giving a choice at that moment, but you are giving a choice for future confrontations that they might have regarding revenge. So now let's move on to behaviors that are displaying power. So here are some strategies for children or adults who are trying to display their power. Now remember, when they're doing different behaviors that are for power, it's because they need control. They want to feel like they're in some sort of control of that particular situation. So again, always show respect. We want to make sure we talk kindly to people, and we want to make rules together. This is with those proactive strategies that we've already discussed previously. You can make rules together, consequences together, you can talk out routines together. Anytime you incorporate this person that feels like they need power into what's happening, then they feel like they have some control of that particular situation. So you want to hear them out. Now, I keep going back to my children, but children are children, and young adults will be young adults. So Michaela is a fashionista. This is my 7-year-old, and she loves to pick her own clothes. So she has these little wedge sneakers. They're like regular sneakers, but they have a little wedge inside so that they feel like they're wearing heels. So we were going to the park, and I said, Michaela, you need to put on your sneakers because we're going to the park. So I go up to my room to get something. I come back down, and she has on her wedge sneakers. And I said, sweetheart, you need to put on your flat sneakers because we're going to the park. But mommy, I don't want to wear those. I'm going to wear these. I said, okay. So tell me why you want to wear those today. And she said, well, when we're at the park, I just want to sit down and color. I don't want to run around and I don't want to play. I just want to sit down and do my art. And I can say, okay, so this time you can wear your sneaker heels because you told me you're not going to run and play. So just know that when we get to the park, if you decide you want to run and play, I'm going to tell you no, because you decided to wear these sneaker heels and they're not safe for you to run and play. So then she'll feel like, okay, so at least we talked it out. And I understand that I'm not going to get to play because I said I wanted to wear these heels because I want to do art and I don't want to play at the park. Now, that could have been a whole different situation where I say, why aren't you wearing the flat sneakers? I told you to put on the flat sneakers. And she'll just say, but I don't want to wear the flat sneakers. But I told you to put them on. I'm your mom. Listen to me. Put your heels on. Put your sneakers on. And it could have been a whole power struggle. And we don't need to have a power struggle, but we need to talk through. So why are you making this decision instead of what was talked about? Sometimes they might have a rational reason for why they didn't do exactly what they were told, but sometimes they don't. So in the situation where whatever was said by the higher authority should still stand, we explain why that decision still stands instead of just asserting our authority and saying, because I said so. Children need to understand that it's okay to rationalize their thoughts and express why they're thinking what they're thinking. And as adults, we need to listen to the other person to see if their thought is rational and if it's something we should consider. By doing these conversations and dialogues with others, we're allowing autonomy and we're encouraging independence. So we want to encourage that powerful display because that can lead to leadership qualities, that can lead to just amazing leaders in the future. But if we squash that from the beginning by saying, but I'm in charge, this is what you have to do, then they can become a dictator type leader later, or they can learn to be a leader who actually listens to those that are following under them. And as I've said, with seeking attention and with the behavior just before this, taking revenge, we still want to give specific positive praise. We want to congratulate them anytime they do what we've taught them to do or appropriate behaviors. And we also want to provide choices. So like I gave you with the example with Michaela, I let her know when we get to the park, you have decided you don't want to play, you just want to do art. So just know, if you wear the wedge sneakers, you won't be able to play. You'll just sit and do art. Or you can wear your flat sneakers and then you can do art, or you can run and play. What choice do you choose? So I'm giving a choice, but I'm also hearing out what she had to say. Let's move on to our last one, which is behaviors that are showing feelings of inadequacy. Reactive. Oh, okay. I thought the slide was wrong. Okay. So, strategies for inadequacy behaviors. Now, remember for these are students or children or people who feel unworthy. So, I told you at the beginning, you have to watch for these because they may not be behaviors that are disruptive, but they're behaviors you have to consciously look for. You have to make sure that they're not being too quiet or too withdrawn from everyone else. So again, always show respect. Talk with them kindly and with understanding. So you want to make sure, again, that you listen to the child and you let them express their feelings. So if a child says, like if you call on someone to read in the classroom and they just sit there and I don't want to, or they just don't read at all, you can later go to the child because you don't want to do it right in front of the whole class because that can be humiliating or embarrassing for the child. So later, while everyone's doing independent work, call the child to your desk and say, you know, when I called on you earlier to read, you didn't read. So can I ask what's going on? Are you okay today? And they can say, well, when I was looking at the book, I saw I didn't know a lot of the words, so I didn't want to read out loud. Okay, well, let's go over it together. Let me see which words you were struggling with. Or, I just didn't feel like reading today. And so you can say, I understand that, but next time, will you please let me know how you're feeling when you walk into class so that next time I won't call on you, so that you won't feel embarrassed and it won't be that you're not listening to the teacher. So again, have this talk with the child. So this is leading to the rationale for the behavior. So why are you not doing what I've asked you to do? Why have you not finished your homework? Why are you not doing your chores? Why did you not want to share the beautiful artwork that you completed? Why don't you want to work with this group? We want to make sure that we talk with the students and engage in the dialogue. Then we want to reteach or model whatever that feeling of unworthiness brought on. So if maybe they didn't want to write a poem or they didn't want to share their poem with the class, go through the poem together and just encourage the effort, encourage what they've done, reteach for them to say, I'm thinking, so with my daughter, the fashionista, Michaela, she's also an artist and a singer and a dancer. She'll tell you she's everything. And then sometimes she'll say, Mommy, when you draw, your drawings are better. And then you can tell that she's seeking not only for attention, but she also feels unworthy. So we have conversations where I tell her, Michaela, Mommy's a lot older than you, and I have been drawing for a long time. You just started drawing, and look how amazing you're doing. I love how you drew the eyes on this particular princess, and I love how you drew this castle. We want to really reinforce the positive things that they're doing so that they can build up their self-worth, and they can see that what they're doing is also amazing and great and worth sharing with others. And this leads to specific positive praise. You want to make sure that you're very specific on the praise that you give, because I could have just said, Michaela, great job on your picture. And then she might be thinking, but which part? So if I say, hey, great job drawing those eyes, I love how you did that. Or, oh, I really love that you used 2 colors when you colored in her dress and you kind of mixed it together. That's really cool. You just want to make sure that you really encourage their self-worth and just build them up as an individual, because when the children feel unworthy, just imagine how many years pass by the time they become adults and they still have those feelings of unworthiness. That can lead to depression and anxiety and a lot of other things that are much bigger consequences than when they're children and then maybe they just didn't want to color a picture. We have to look deeper into the behavior to see why it's happening. And of course, we can provide choices. We can always provide choices. Okay, so I understand you didn't want to read this time, but next time, how about we practice reading this little part first? And then when I call on you in class, you'll know how to read it. Does that sound good? See? So we can offer those choices to students so that they feel ready and prepared, especially when they feel unworthy or that they're not good enough. We can help them practice beforehand so that they do feel ready at the time we need them to do something. Okay, so we've gone through proactive and reactive strategies. Now it's time for review. Are you ready? Let's see how much of the video you remember. Okay, so first we're going to look at general strategies, things we can do beforehand and that we can do for everyone, regardless of the type of behavior. Then we're going to remember the 4 types and what causes these 4 types. So let's see how much you can remember. Okay, so here we are for being proactive. Remember, you can create rules and consequences together. You need to establish routines so that there's less room for inappropriate behaviors. And you want to also have behavior contracts, especially in a classroom type setting. Of course, you can also do this at home. And you want to make choices available. Have the choices already planned out beforehand so you don't have to think of choices during the particular activity. And then some strategies that you may have noticed that I mentioned for all of the different types of behaviors are to always show respect. Remember to always talk kindly to other people and to remember that respect works both ways. So if you're not being respectful to a child or to another adult, they may not be respectful to you in return. Specific positive praise. I can't stress this enough. You can even use this at home with your children. When you say great job or thank you, say for what? Thank you for doing the dishes. Thank you for eating all of your food. Great job finishing your math homework and getting most of the problems right. Great job trying on your math homework. Even though you got a lot of them wrong, you tried so hard and I really appreciate your effort. You can also provide choices. It doesn't matter what the reason is for the behavior, have choices available so that they know they can choose between these 2 different activities, or they can choose to comply or have the consequence. You can always have those 2 things as choices. And last, listen and be patient. I said it earlier, sometimes we really don't feel like taking the time to teach the appropriate behavior at that time, but it's going to go a long way. The more you do it, the less you'll have to do it later on. So, did you remember most of those, even though it was written on the screen? Hopefully, a lot of that sounded like review and that you've already heard it. So now let's move on to the 4 types and different things that we needed to remember about the 4 types of behaviors. So the 4 reasons for behavior are seeking attention, taking revenge, displaying power, or displaying feelings of inadequacy. So now we have those 4 reasons, but what causes those reasons? What's the deeper reason that students or children or adults feel like they have to engage in these inappropriate behaviors? Well, if they're seeking attention, it means they need affirmation. If they're taking revenge, it means that they felt hurt by someone or something. If they're displaying power, it's because they need to feel like they're in control. And if they're displaying feelings of inadequacy, it's because they feel unworthy. So now when we're looking at strategies for these different behaviors, when they need affirmation or they're seeking attention, make sure you encourage the child or the person. When they feel hurt and so they decide to take revenge, make sure you hear them out, hear what the situation was, and then be sure to model appropriate responses for in the future. When a child is acting out because they need control, so they're displaying some type of power behavior, let's work on creating rules together or talking through things together so that they have some autonomy and they feel like they have some control in the situation. And then finally, when a child is feeling unworthy, they might show feelings of inadequacy. So we want to make sure that we listen to their feelings and allow them to express their feelings to us, and then we can encourage them for increasing their self-worth and their self-confidence and making sure that they start to feel worthy and that they are amazing. Hopefully you remembered all of those things. We covered a lot in this video. We had 3 objectives. We had 3 objectives. I wonder if I can. Yes, I can. The first objective was that you can list 4 reasons for inappropriate behaviors. Hopefully you're able to do that. If not, then you might want to go back and watch the video again. The second objective was to describe the underlying reasons for inappropriate behaviors. And again, if you forgot what those are, feel free to go back or at least watch the review section of the video. And the last objective was to describe or apply strategies to correct inappropriate behaviors. If you use any of these strategies that have been mentioned in the video today, please put them in the comments so we know if they worked or if they didn't work. Because if they didn't work, then let's try to figure out something else that we can do to help you work with that inappropriate behavior. I'm trying to go back to the home page. Let's see. Okay, so we went through objectives, we went through the reasons for behavior. The best part was the strategies for behavior. Then we had a review. Let me go fix that. Okay, so finally, what other strategies have worked for you? Please put them in the comments below so that those who read the comments can see other ideas for what they can do for inappropriate behaviors that they're trying to work through. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to the channel so that you can get information whenever I post a new video. Thank you, and I will put resources for where I got some of this information down in the description box. And I hope to hear from you soon.